On the show tonight, as the Iran-Israel war enters day 8, Iranian missiles continue to leave Israel wounded and the West stunned. On Gravitas tonight, we will tell you how, as the United States of America sets a 2-week deadline on Iran, the cost to Israel is mounting with each passing day. Also on the show, we will tell you why Iran is targeting Israel's Elites Unit 8200, which is the digital backbone of Israeli military. And finally, on Gravitas, we will tell you how the United Kingdom is concerned over China's proposed super embassy in London. All that and a lot more lined up for you on the show tonight. Let's get you started. Today marks one full week since the war between Iran and Israel erupted. 7 days of relentless missile strikes, rising casualties, and mounting diplomatic tension. In Iran, 657 people have been killed, while 24 killed in Israel. In the latest escalation, Iran launched a barrage of 35 missiles into Israeli territory, striking multiple cities. In the northern port city of Haifa, 2 people were seriously injured as explosions rocked a residential area in the city's main port. Thick black smoke was seen billowing into the sky, casting a grim shadow over the urban skyline there in Israel. Israel's military said 25 fighter jets carried out targeted airstrikes early Friday as well, hitting missile storage facilities and launch infrastructure in western Iran. Hypersonic missiles sliced through the atmosphere at blistering speed, followed by the thunderous roar of next-generation ballistic missiles. Each barrage more devastating than the last. Israel's famed missile defenses are buckling, arrow interceptors running dangerously low, and the Iron Dome is stretched to the breaking point. The battlefield is shifting, and Iran's arsenal continues to throw out new surprises towards Israel. Our next report telling you more.
Missile trails scorch the sky as Iran unleashes wave after wave of advanced firepower, bleeding Israel in a relentless campaign of attrition. Friday morning began in Israel with yet another wave of missile attacks. These are the scenes of destruction in the southern city of Beersheba. The same city was hit on Thursday. The ruins of Soroka Medical Center tell the tale of the devastating attack.
זה ממש עצוב, אני לא האמנתי שזה...
It's so sad. I never thought something like this could happen. Never. It's only medical professionals here and patients. And look what happened to us.
Hypersonic missiles, which are extremely difficult to intercept, slam into Israeli military installations and critical infrastructure, leaving smoldering craters and shattered command centers. The Israeli Air Force's relentless sorties cannot stem the tide as Iran's missile factories, some hidden deep within the mountains, continue to churn out new weapons.
The Islamic Republic is continuing to launch ballistic missile attacks at Israel, 11 rounds of which since the fighting started. And Iran is largely engaging in what we call a counter-value operation, meaning they're targeting civilian population centers largely in a bid to erode the will of the Israelis to fight.
Iranian officials taunt that new generation of missiles are still on the shelf, hinting at even deadlier barrages to come. With each passing day, Israel's strategic depth erodes, its population gripped by fear and uncertainty as sirens wail from Haifa to Beersheba.
It started before 1 week. It's very scared, and I feel very, very bad right now. I hope it's finished right now. It's a dream. I think it's finished a long time, like 1 month or 2 months, something like that.
It's terrible. Destroyed buildings. You know that moments before people were sitting here hoping that it wouldn't hit, and they unfortunately suffered a direct hit. Their cars are destroyed, their homes are collapsed, people are severely injured.
Iran's tactics are bleeding Israel dry. The Arrow system, Israel's last line of defense against long-range ballistic threats, is running perilously low on interceptors. With stocks dwindling fast, analysts warn that Israel faces only 10 days of adequate defense before critical depletion. For its part, Israel still controls the skies, executing deep strikes on Iran's nuclear and missile infrastructure. But even successful hits don't blunt Iran's escalating threat. Bureau Report, WION World is one.
In a dramatic turn of events, US President Donald Trump has backed away from the brink of full-scale military intervention against Iran. Just hours after issuing a stark threat, as the brutal conflict between Israel and Iran enters its 8th day, the White House has announced a 2-week window for potential diplomacy. The question being, is this a pause or a preparation for something big? Our next report telling you more.
And then a real end, not a ceasefire, an end.
Sirens wail over Tel Aviv and Tehran as the 8th day of the Iran-Israel war dawns with fire and fury. The world holds its breath. Missiles streak through the night, hospitals burn, and nuclear sites smolder. The tension of a single question now matches the echo of bombs. Has Trump blinked? Or is this the calm before an even greater storm? America, which has been preparing for maximum pressure, now signals that the time has come for diplomacy with Iran.
I have a message directly from the president, and I quote, "Based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks." That's a quote directly from the president for all of you today.
Iranian foreign minister is meeting representatives from Britain, Germany, France and European Union in Geneva. Ahead of the meeting, he says Tehran is not seeking negotiations with anyone as long as Israel continues its strike on Iran.
Let me make the position clear. Under the current circumstances, and as the Zionist regime's attacks continue, we are not seeking negotiations with anyone, especially not with the United States, on this matter. It is the Americans who are seeking negotiations. They have sent messages multiple times, including very serious ones.
Israeli military released these images showing the latest attacks on Iran. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has made it clear that Israel will not wait for a US green light to continue its military campaign against Iran.
I'm determined that we will achieve all our goals, all their nuclear facilities. We can do this, but the decision of the President, US President Donald Trump, whether he wants to join or not again, is his decision. He will do what is good for the United States, and I will do what is good for the State of Israel.
As the US weighs direct involvement in the Iran-Israel war, one move signals caution, shielding its military assets. Satellite images reveal that nearly 40 American aircraft have vanished from Qatar's Al Udeid base. While dozens were visible on June 5th, only 3 remained by June 19th.
The risk of escalation across the region is obvious, and the impact it would have. I'm talking to leaders across the region all of the time. They're voicing their concerns about what might happen in relation to them.
The shift in Trump's tone might be an attempt to manage growing domestic and international pressure against a wider war, especially with elements within his own Republican base cautioning against further entanglement in West Asia. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Let's just listen in to what the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke at the Weizmann Institute in Rehovot just a short while back.
Medical research smashed by this rocket from this evil regime, by this missile with a ton of payload to destroy human progress. That's what this regime is about. That's what the Iranian tyrants are about. They subjugate their own people. They trample on them for almost 50 years, half a century. The long-suffering Iranian people, which we embrace. We understand what they've been going through, and we understand what our region has been going through and the world has been going through. Iran is the preeminent terrorist regime in the world. It must not, it cannot have nuclear weapons. That is the purpose of Israel's action, to save itself from the Iranian threat of annihilation. But by doing so, we're saving many, many others. End of speech. Questions? No? Thank you.
You have something to say to Trump?
Yes, I think he's a great leader, and I thank him for assisting in Israel's defense.
You want me to question in English, please? Reuters, would you like a question? No. Okay.
But this is the difference between us and them. They target civilians. We do everything to avoid civilian casualties. We ask them to leave the neighborhoods where there are embedded regime targets, nuclear targets, military targets. Their enemy. We have a common enemy, which is an oppressive regime, perhaps the most oppressive the most oppressive and cruel on this planet. They deserve better. We all deserve better.
German TV. Prime Minister, Israeli security officials say that without American help, with Fordo, for example, the Israeli army can only set back the Iranian nuclear program by a few months. If you don't get the help, what is the point of this conflict?
The goal that I set is to destroy the Iranian nuclear weapons program, and we have the capabilities of achieving it. The United States makes its own decisions. President Trump is a great leader for the world, a great friend of Israel, and a great leader for...
And well, that was the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who said that the Iranian missiles destroyed Israel's $50 million science treasure. We're talking about the Weizmann Institute, marking one of the war's most costly strikes at the institute's 2 major buildings and more than 45 labs, including one dedicated to heart disease and another to neurodevelopmental disorders, which were destroyed in the Iranian strikes. Along with years of critical research and samples, while the institute represents Israeli scientific progress, experts believe Iran targeted it in retaliation for previous Israeli actions against Iranian scientists. The Israeli Prime Minister further asserted that Israel's sole goal is to eliminate Iran's nuclear programs. Well, Israel's most elite intelligence unit has emerged as a major target for Iran. We are talking about Unit 8200, the digital backbone of Israeli military intelligence, which was allegedly struck by Iranian ballistic missiles at the Glilot base near Tel Aviv. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps has claimed responsibility for the strike. IRGC said that the strike specifically focused on destroying facilities linked to Israeli intelligence agencies, including Israel's spy agency Mossad. Describing the strikes as specifically targeting critical centers for planning and Unit 8200, the main target of this reported attack is no ordinary intelligence outfit. It is Israel's largest military unit and plays a major role similar to that of America's NSA or Britain's GCHQ, with its roots tracing back to the founding of Israel in 1948. This unit, 8200, specializes in cyber operations, electronic surveillance, and data-driven warfare. And over the years, Unit 8200 has reportedly become a major asset for Israeli cyber espionage. Unit 8200 has been widely linked to virus attacks between 2005 and 2010 that reportedly disabled Iran's nuclear centrifuges. Reports have also connected the unit to a 2017 cyber attack on Lebanon's main telecom operator and also to a 2018 intelligence operation that disrupted an ISIS plot to attack a civilian airliner traveling from Australia to the UAE in 2018. In 2023, the unit's commander confirmed that AI, artificial intelligence, is now being integrated into its targeting systems, especially for operations against Hamas. The unit also reportedly spies on Palestinians in West Bank and Gaza, as well as active combat zones around the region. Along with all of the Israeli defense and security establishment, Unit 8200's reputation suffered as well after the October 7th attack by Hamas, facing criticism for its failure to anticipate the assault back then. The fallout forced the resignation of Unit 8200's commander. So, Iran's strike on this unit appears to be more than just retaliation. It is a clear message. Iran is going after the very core of Israel's cyber intelligence. are major fears of a nuclear fallout amid the ongoing war between Israel and Iran. And the United Nations Security Council called for an emergency open briefing to address this very crucial matter. The meeting requested by Iran was backed by Algeria, China, Pakistan and Russia. Rafael Grossi, the head of the UN's nuclear watchdog, briefed the council, while Grossi confirmed that there is no radiation release in Iran. He stressed that danger exists at Iran's nuclear sites while chemical toxicity continues to remain a key concern. The IAEA chief further called for protective action and called for inspection at Iran's nuclear sites as well, making it extremely clear that nuclear safety cannot be compromised in any manner.
There is a danger have caused a sharp degradation in nuclear safety and security in Iran. Though they have not so far led to a radiological release affecting the public, there is a danger this could occur.
UN Chief Antonio Guterres delivered a stark warning. The expansion of the Israel-Iran conflict could ignite a fire that no one can control, and we must not let that happen.
There are moments when the choices before us are not just consequential, they are defining. Moments when the direction taken will shape not only the fate of nations, but potentially our collective future. This is such a moment. To the parties to the conflict, the potential parties to the conflict, and to the Security Council as the representative of the international community, I have a simple and clear message. Give peace a chance.
This urgent meeting comes in the aftermath of the aerial offensive launched by Israel's defense forces against multiple Iranian sites, including the dormant Arak nuclear reactor in the country's west. Now, the International Atomic Energy Agency confirmed several high-value nuclear installations in Iran which have suffered damage in Israel's strikes. Among them are the uranium enrichment facility at Natanz, then nuclear-related infrastructure in Isfahan and centrifuge production centers located in Karaj and Tehran as well. A senior IRGC commander claims that all enriched nuclear material has now been moved to secure undisclosed locations. But the strikes by Israel have raised international alarm. The IAEA also reports that the Kondab heavy water research reactor sustained hits, though it was not operational at that time. The agency said that there are no signs of radiation leaks at Kondab. At the same time, the IAEA head has voiced concern over possible radioactive contamination inside the Natanz nuclear facility as well. Attention has also turned to one of Iran's most fortified nuclear sites. We are talking about the Fordo nuclear facility. Built deep beneath a mountain, Fordo poses a nearly impossible challenge to conventional weapons. Only one weapon in the US arsenal is believed to be capable of reaching it. The GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator, commonly referred to as the bunker buster bomb, reportedly sought after by Israel as well. Now, this GPS-guided bomb, engineered to strike deeply buried targets, weighs over 13,000 kilograms and can pierce more than 60 meters of concrete or rock before detonating. The US Air Force could deploy this weapon using B-2 bombers, stealth aircraft designed to carry out high-risk precision missions. But a modified C-130 transport planes could also deliver MOP-style weapons, like in past operations involving large bomb payloads. Historically speaking, C-130s dropped massive bombs like the Blue 82 Daisy Cutter, that's during the Vietnam War, to clear landing zones. Now, whether a C-130 can effectively strike a site as fortified as Fordo, that remains a question. Even if Fordo remains out of reach, Iran hosts many other nuclear sites that are believed to be more vulnerable to such an attack. As tensions rise and military options remain under scrutiny, all eyes now shift to the United Nations right now. Governments from around the world are evacuating thousands of their nationals caught up in the rapidly spiraling Israel-Iran war, organizing buses and planes and, in some cases, assisting people crossing borders on foot. European countries have already repatriated hundreds of their citizens from Israel. The Czech Republic and Slovakia have also taken 181 people home on government planes. Well, Germany evacuated its people through Jordan, while Poland said that the first of its citizens arrived back on June 18th. Greece said it had repatriated around 105 of its citizens, plus several foreign nationals, through Egypt, while a private plane with 148 people landed in the Bulgarian capital earlier this week as well. The U.S. ambassador to Israel announced plans for evacuating Americans by air and sea. Ambassador Mike Huckabee posted on social media that the embassy was working on evacuation flights and cruise ship departures for Americans wanting to leave Israel. Meanwhile, China has evacuated more than 1,600 citizens from Iran and several hundred more from Israel. And speaking about Australia, the country has started evacuating around 1,500 citizens from Iran and more than 1,200 from Israel. Jakarta's foreign minister said that Indonesia is preparing to evacuate around 380 of its citizens currently in Iran by land, and at least 11 Indonesians in Israel have also been asked to leave. Vietnam, which has more than 700 citizens in Israel and dozens in Iran, said it was working to ensure their safety as the war continues between Iran and Israel.
There's a war on immigrant communities. Hands up, Iran! Ceasefire now! Hands up, Iran! Hands up, Iran! Hands up, Iran! Israel! Israel! عدوة المسلمين! What's going on in Iran? Be quiet!
The Israel-Iran war has triggered demonstrations across the globe, with many condemning Israel's preemptive strikes on Iran. This, as the U.S. continues to weigh its direct involvement in the Israeli operation against Iran. In Tehran, people assembled for a rally against Israel, burning Israeli and American flags and chanting anti-Israel slogans.
Never. For a lifetime we declared, and our brave commanders who were martyred declared that we will destroy Israel. Now the ball is in our court. We will not retreat. We are here.
In Lebanon's Beirut and its southern suburbs, demonstrators gathered near Friday prayers, rallying in support with Iran. Demonstrators held Iranian, Lebanese and Hezbollah flags as they chanted slogans against Israel and the United States of America.
So we came here in solidarity with Iranians to stand against the threats against him, to ask for the end of the aggression on Iran and show our solidarity.
In the US, meanwhile, anti-war demonstrators gathered outside the White House to demonstrate the latest exchange of missile strikes between Iran and Israel. Dozens of demonstrators waved Palestinian and Iranian flags, chanted slogans and held placards as well in support with Iran in the ongoing conflict. They rather demanded a complete end to US and Israeli military actions in West Asia.
Today, we convene because the terror of the Zionist entity has spread beyond the borders of the Palestinian homeland. Shame. And the Zionist entity has put the people of Iran under its sights to spread its terror beyond the Palestinian homeland once again.
I don't want war in Iran, actually. It's my country. I don't want it to be destroyed. Because like Benjamin Netanyahu is thinking we are having the nuclear weapon. It's like no fact based on that. He's just bombing in Iran without any facts.
Tensions flared when a bunch of counter-demonstrators waved Israeli flags and got into a face-off with the anti-war groups. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, a group of demonstrators gathered to demonstrate against potential U.S. involvement in the Israel-Iran war.
I'm here because a few days ago, Israel attacked Iran, and Iran is my motherland. I have families there, my mom, my brother, my sister-in-law, and all my friends live there. And I came here to speak up, to say to our president, we don't need war. I'm here as an American person, and I love America, but I don't want war. I need peace.
Demonstrators staged a demonstration in Malaysian capital Kuala Lumpur against America's support for Israel during the war against Hamas in Gaza and its attacks on Iran. They were carrying Iranian and Palestinian flags and posters. They marched to the U.S. Embassy calling for arrest of the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
If this becomes World War III or not depends on America's reaction. Although America says they won't join the war, we can see there are some sort of efforts to help Israel, and it's some kind of a conspiracy.
Members of Canada's Iranian community gathered outside the Toronto City Hall to call for a ceasefire between Iran and Israel. And speaking to the press, the demonstrators said that they advocate for peace to be restored in Iran and the region as a whole. Many also fear for their friends and family living there.
The internet is on and off, so as much as we get to talk to them, I talk to them, they're all desperately stuck. Both my parents are stuck in Tehran. They don't have gas to leave. My dad doesn't have water right now. There are bombardments around them. And as much as they've said that they're not hitting civilian targets, civilians are being hit. Unfortunately, what happens during war is that the truth starts getting a bit lost. So now we just want people to know that the Iranian people don't want this war. Our government, unfortunately, has also sparked this war. So as much as we're opposed to our government, we want to shed light that the people of Iran want peace. We just want to live in peace and freedom.
Well, earlier this week, Iraqis gathered in Baghdad to demonstrate against ongoing Israeli strikes on Iran. The demonstration was attended by supporters of the Iraqi Shiite group, following Israel's largest ever aerial assault last week, targeting Iranian commanders, nuclear scientists, military installations, and suspected nuclear sites.
God willing, we are in one trench, and we say that in these strikes carried out by the brutal Zionist entity, it thinks that it will weaken the axis of resistance. We say the exact opposite. The assassination of the leaders will increase our resolve and insistence on continuing on this path. God willing, we will be in one trench.
Let's now tell you what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. We'll tell you about the leaked phone call between Thailand's Prime Minister and former Cambodian leader Hun Sen. While Shinawatra has apologized over the leaked call, the crisis threatens to topple her government. Also on the show, we'll tell you how China continues to flex its military muscle around Taiwan after Taiwan's defense ministry said it has detected 74 military aircraft around the island. On to the United Kingdom now. Countries establishing embassies in foreign soil is perhaps a common affair. But when that country is China, America has reasons to worry. At the heart of the controversy is this ambitious project of a super embassy. It has been proposed to build in the heart of London. Just last week, an uproar broke out over a new super embassy on the edge of London's financial district. That's when the White House said it was deeply concerned over potential Chinese access to sensitive, important communications of one of their closest allies, purportedly linked to London's internet network. People who have long campaigned against the institution of the embassy in the UK say that it's perhaps akin to handing Chinese intelligence the golden chance to spy on information of national interest on a platter. And not just the White House. In the Netherlands, the Dutch Parliament has also raised concerns about Beijing's proposed location of a Royal Mint Court, and that too on the edge of the city of London. A proposal which has so far failed to gain planning permission. Now, this ambitious Chinese embassy project was met with resistance earlier too, with hundreds demonstrating outside the planned site of the Chinese embassy in London back in March. If approved, the Chinese super embassy could go on to become the largest embassy in the whole of Europe. The US intervention in the matter now, which comes after a US-UK trade deal was signed at the G7 summit in Canada earlier this week. It has made things even more uncertain at this point of time. Reports say that the embassy complex could further jeopardize intelligence sharing with the United States and the Five Eyes alliance.
It will be a hub for transnational repression. It will make extremely unsafe for the activists like myself. We Uyghurs been oppressed not only inside the Uyghur region, the East Turkestan, but also outside China. And having this huge embassy, it will enable China to do their transnational repression, to make it impossible for our safety to be guaranteed in this country. And we know this place is not going to be a place for diplomacy, it's a place for spying.
The CCP has already demonstrated their embassy service goes beyond just diplomacy, but also they conduct transnational repression and intelligence services. So there's not possible to have an authoritarian regime to have the largest embassy in the UK.
Almost 2 years back, permission to build this super embassy was rejected owing to security concerns. But now, the ultimate decision rests in the hands of the Keir Starmer government, which has now taken over the case. To give you a sense of this proposed super embassy by China, it is supposed to be covering 614,000 square feet, including sprawling offices, residences and tunnels. It is also reportedly slated to be built just opposite the Tower of London, right in the heart of the London city. It's an important position which could make matters a lot trickier. Citizens say the revival of the row years later has made the issue take a completely political turn, for better or for worse. Well, in other news, the Thai Prime Minister is facing growing calls to resign after just 10 months in power. But why? Because of her leaked phone call with former Cambodian leader Hun Sen in the midst of the border row between the two countries. In the phone call, which Hun Sen recorded and shared with about 80 people, including members of his party's standing committee, Shinawatra, the Thailand Prime Minister, is heard referring to her own Second Army Region commander as an opponent. Prime Minister Shinawatra in the call appeared to blame her own country's military for escalating border tensions with Cambodia. She allegedly used a notably conciliatory tone, referring to Cambodia's Hun Sen as uncle. The conversation followed an armed clash on May 28th in a disputed stretch of no man's land along the border, a zone claimed by both the nations. The clash resulted in the death of a Cambodian soldier, and the audio was leaked, like I mentioned, by Hun Sen himself, who he said is to have shared with the other lawmakers in Cambodia. The leak sparked outrage among Thai nationalists. Shinawatra has now apologized for the call. She has said that the call was made from her personal phone and had no idea that it was being recorded or that it would be made public. She insisted her government remains fully committed to supporting the Thai military, and the phone call was a negotiation technique. That's what Shinawatra has said. She also further accused Hun Sen of acting in bad faith.
I'll just refrain from any more private conversations with Hun Sen, since there is now an issue of trust.
The controversy has also led to the Bahu Janata Party, Shinawatra's largest coalition partner, quitting the government, leading to the political crisis in Thailand to deepen further. Well, China is once again flexing its military muscle around Taiwan. Taiwan's defense ministry says it has now detected 74 military aircraft around the main island in the last 30 hours itself. The ministry reported that 50 Chinese military aircraft along with 6 Chinese naval vessels were reported on Thursday, and another 24 aircraft including fighter jets and drones were detected as well. In response, Taiwanese President Lai Ching-te ordered defense and intelligence units to increase monitoring, warning that China's military pressure has not eased, even amid rising tensions in West Asia. And this latest incursion, it comes after British Royal Navy patrol vessel HMS Spey sailed through the Taiwan Strait on June 18th. The United States and its allies, including the United Kingdom, consider this 180-kilometer wide waterway to be international waters, open to all vessels under international law. But China sees this strait as a part of its own territory. It has a long history of reacting strongly to foreign military transits. The last UK Navy transit was in 2021, and at that time as well, China condemned the move and deployed military forces to shadow the vessel. This time was no different. China's foreign ministry condemned Britain, accusing it of using freedom of navigation as a pretext for provocation. China's military also issued a statement calling the UK's actions a deliberate attempt to cause trouble.
The People's Democratic Progress Party authorities are trying to seize the spotlight again. No matter what they say or do, this will never change the fact that Taiwan is part of China, nor will it change the historical trend of Taiwan's eventual and inevitable unification with China. Those seeking independence by using force are doomed to fail.
In yet another move that signals deepening mistrust and growing economic rivalry, China has now slashed its holdings of U.S. government debt to the lowest level since 2009. According to the U.S. Treasury Department, Beijing held $757 billion worth of U.S. treasuries in April 2025, and that's a decline of $8.2 billion from the previous month. China is now the third largest foreign holder of U.S. treasuries, having been overtaken by Japan and the United Kingdom. Now, this ongoing sell-off began during Donald Trump's first term, and it appears to only be accelerating under the renewed trade war between the world's two largest economies. Though a temporary pause eased some tariffs, the damage was already done. Experts say that the threat of financial confrontation now looms large. Chinese officials and economists are increasingly cautious of the U.S. using the dollar as a geopolitical weapon, especially after Washington froze Russian reserves following its 2022 invasion of Ukraine. At a key financial forum in Shanghai, China's central bank leaders called for a more multipolar global financial system and also greater global use of the yuan. While not naming the US directly, they hinted at growing concerns over Washington's global economic dominance. The US-China rivalry is now clearly extending beyond tariffs and because it's entered the financial arena as well. And this, as Beijing steps back from US debt, the global economic order could be entering a new, perhaps more uncertain phase. One where trust in American financial instruments is no longer taken for granted. Assisted dying, a sensitive and contentious topic, has kicked a political storm of sorts in the United Kingdom. And after hours of debating whether to allow assisted dying for terminally ill people or not, Britain's Parliament has finally voted to legalize assisted dying, in other words, euthanasia. On Friday, 314 lawmakers voted in favour of the assisted dying bill, with 291 against the bill, thus clearing the biggest parliamentary hurdle. The law, termed as the terminally ill adults end of life, would give mentally competent terminally ill adults in England and Wales with 6 months or less left to live the right to choose to end their lives with medical help. With this, Britain also joins Australia, Canada and other countries as well as some US states in permitting euthanasia. Meanwhile, demonstrations broke out both for and against this legislation outside the UK Parliament, as the MPs debated if this law could be brought to life, hours before the final voting took place.
That there are different views within the public, and we have to take on board the concerns of vulnerable groups, and that's why the safeguards are so important. But I would also say that there is no one more vulnerable than someone who is dying.
Because there is no doubt that if this bill is passed in its current form, people will lose their lives who do not need to, and they will be amongst the most vulnerable and marginalised in our society.
While supporters of the law believe that this move could provide dignity and compassion to those suffering, opponents say that it could be misused as a coercion tactic, urging those vulnerable or may not in a position to make judgments to end their lives. For now, the bill proceeds to Britain's upper chamber, the House of Lords, where it will undergo months of scrutiny and will be reviewed for amendments required, if any, before being finalised into a concrete law in the future. As Israel and Iran continue to attack each other and the United States of America delayed a decision on US involvement in the war, crude oil prices are set for a third consecutive weekly gain. Brent crude fell around 2% to temper gains this month, and our next report telling you more.
From below, $63 a barrel. At the end of last month, Brent crude has surged to above $77 and counting. The recent tit-for-tat airstrikes between Israel and Iran pose risks to the new energy market landscape. However, Friday's moves suggest further fallout for global energy prices seems limited, at least for now. Markets usually tend not to price in geopolitical risks until a conflagration. They are currently showing little sign of factoring in a worst-case outcome. But for now, markets are bracing for volatility, with oil already carrying a geopolitical premium of about $10 a barrel since hostilities began last week. Citigroup says if Iran does shut the Strait of Hormuz, crude could spike to $90 and above. Almost 20% of the global oil supply flows through tense Gulf route. If Iran does decide to shut the supply route, bets are for crude to surge significantly higher. Separately, Jennifer McKeown, chief global economist at Capital Economics, said some extreme scenarios resulting from increased US involvement in the Israel-Iran war could push oil prices as high as $130 to $150 a barrel. That could be a reality, particularly if Iran retaliates in a major way. US intervention in the conflict would bolster that further, but exactly how much would depend on the nature of the involvement. The worst-case scenario risks, though, are an extreme bet. At the moment, with predictions broadly ranging from $75 to $95 for Brent if the conflict drags on. For markets, a breach above $100 will lead to panic among investors, although that looks like an unlikely scenario at the moment. At least based on the volatility seen in oil prices this week after the initial jump in the first 2 weeks of June. For China, the record oil stockpile offers buffer as the Iran crisis builds. Chinese oil refiners are not concerned about the prospect of disruptions to West Asia supply, despite the country being the biggest buyer of Iranian crude. However, a further jump in crude prices would cause further policy easing by major central banks. Even though central banks would like to think that the current price surge would have a temporary impact, it would be a brave central bank that would cut interest rates now. Definitely not after the mistake central banks made immediately after COVID. A surge in inflation from higher oil prices is the risk that central banks want to avoid, especially amid the uncertainty surrounding Trump's tariff policies. Business Bureau, WION, World is One, World.
Ever since ChatGPT came into our lives, artificial intelligence has perhaps transformed how we learn and work. Millions now rely on it every day, but there is a big question. Does using ChatGPT make us think less? Well, a new study by researchers from MIT, Wellesley College and Massart attempts to answer exactly that. And the findings raise serious concerns about how AI might be changing our brains. Researchers asked students to write essays and then divide them into 3 groups. One used ChatGPT, others used Google search, and a third group relied solely on their own minds. All participants also wore EEG headsets to track their brain activity throughout the sessions. The results, you might be wondering. Well, students who used ChatGPT showed the least brain engagement. The essays were completed faster, but their brains worked very less. They also remembered less of what they wrote and felt less connected to their own work. That's not all. Later sessions, when ChatGPT users had to write without AI, they perhaps struggled to activate the same parts of their brains they had used earlier. In contrast, participants who used their own thinking before trying ChatGPT showed a spike in brain activity, possibly because they were engaging with a new tool. The study went further when asked to recall or summarize parts of the essays. The ChatGPT users struggled the most. Many couldn't even remember what they wrote. Researchers call this cognitive offloading. To put it simply, outsourcing your brain to a machine. The essays also gave interesting findings. ChatGPT written essays tended to be repetitive and it lacked any kind of originality. Meanwhile, essays from the brain-only group, however, showed a wider vocabulary, deeper analysis, and stronger critical thinking. So, what's the takeaway here? ChatGPT can certainly save time and improve efficiency, but relying on it too much may weaken memory, reduce mental effort, and disconnect us from our own work. The future of learning may include AI, but this study remains and rather reminds us that there's no substitute for original thinking. All right, slipping into a very short break, we're leaving you with Gravitas Worldview. Thanks very much for staying with us. You are watching WION The World.
India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
We're giving an AI-generated video where we can analyze your credit history, your credit score.
It's all about now content. A lot of it is now digital. A lot of TV content is still being watched.
I think it's been a fantastic journey. We have succeeded in some of our original goals, which was to bring credit accessibility to both companies and individuals.
Key milestones of traction under your leadership.
Getting actually a personal check from Mr. Ratan Tata. We got an opportunity to get listed.
One of the biggest things that has changed in Razorpay over last 5-6 years JB is to be a single product, single business company to a multi-product, multi-business company.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Welcome back to WION World is One. We are glad you're watching. Time now for Pulse. I'm Eric Kunjoka. The headlines. Israel's home front